We're getting bonus weather. 60 degrees, first week in November. Doesn't get any better than this, but it's gonna change. Winter starts next week, I promise. Yesterday, I went on an epic mountain run in the park, Grand Teton National Park. Got beautiful views of the Tetons, had the place to myself. A little bit of snow, but mainly dry. Just really put an exclamation point on the season. And it was just what I needed to kind of, here we are in November and kind of entering the winter months. And again, just what I needed. It was just a great way to reflect on the year and have one last epic, dry, warm trail run, mountain run in the mountains before winter starts. And today I'm out for a 2.5 hour ride. And I thought today would be an excellent way to put an exclamation point on Cadence. I've put out a lot of Cadence videos throughout the summer, and it seems like the majority of the questions I continue to get, and one of the most difficult things to develop as you're working on Cadence is learning to have high cadence while running easy or our endurance pace. It's easy when things speed up to have high cadence, but how do we develop high cadence when we're running easy? And that's what takes time, and that's what we're gonna tackle today. But first, I'm gonna finish up my ride, then we're gonna head to the track for the cadence work. And along my ride, I'm gonna tackle some of your quick questions that require quick answers that don't necessarily need to be devoted to a whole video. So we're gonna tackle some of those as I ride. So let's go. Typical late fall sky, high clouds, but beautiful. There's Fish Creek, and I'm headed up Fish Creek Road. Got nice little tailwind, so it's gonna be a little windy coming back. First question, I get often a lot of questions on jump roping, and got this question last week on the post. What about jump roping? Is it good? Of course it's good. Got someone coming through. So back to jump roping. Jump roping is awesome, especially if you do it bare feet, because now you're naturally landing on your forefoot with a nice quick cadence. You're training elastic energy that we talk about with run form, teaching your muscles to respond really quickly. So it's very, very good for you. And I think this question was related to maybe can it replace running? And I like to say no. Is that I mentioned in a few videos quite a while ago about how most of us can't run enough to maximize our running. So I would not look for running or for jump roping to replace your running unless you're not able to run during the pandemic. Great time to do it, but don't think jumping rope can replace your running if you want to maximize your running. I would view jumping rope more like you would a drill, or more like strength training. Fish Creek from up high. Back to jump roping. Jump roping can be an excellent way to train your cadence, okay? Because you have to jump relatively quickly while you're jump roping, and could be a way to achieve some of the things we're going to talk about later in the video about cadence. So master your jump roping. I got a question on tapering. And first of all, I don't like to use that word tapering. And this question pertains to tapering for races. This runner mentioned that he races quite a bit, very frequently, almost every weekend, from short distance all the way up to ultras. and he has a problem tapering because it cuts into his training, and he oftentimes loses a little bit of a confidence or doesn't trust the process because that he does race so much. To take time and taper your volume during racing so much can be a little disjointing, and that's why I don't like to use the word taper. But let me first back up and say that I don't recommend a lot of my athletes race very often, especially my marathoners and ultramarathoners. So I just want to put that out there, that most of my athletes do not race frequently. Therefore, we're putting in a full program before they hit their big season, before they hit their high priority races. Therefore, it gives us the time to build a foundation, to go through specific training and prepare for the race season. And therefore, they have a lot of training in them before they start a lot of racing. And therefore, they're able to have time to schedule. What this question relates to is tapering. But I don't like that word tapering. I like to use the word peaking, and here's why. Is that tapering kind of refers to just reducing volume and reducing what you're doing. And that's only half of it. When I take my athletes through what, again, I call a peak, is, for example, I have 2 athletes going to the Trail National Marathon Championships this weekend in Moab, and they've gone through a peaking process the last 3 weeks. Their 4th week before the race was their hardest training week, and then they have a 3-week peaking where I begin to reduce the amount of running they're doing across the board or across the week, and then I'm also maintaining their sequence of intensity. So let's say they have, just simple purposes, a Tuesday, Thursday intensity day. I'm maintaining those days as assigning intensity, but I'm also reducing the amount of intensity they're doing each day. So if they have 5 by 5 minutes, I might go 4 by 5 minutes. I might go 3 by 4 minutes. I might go 2 by 5 minutes as we get closer and closer to the race. So that's how peaking happens. You have to maintain some intensity while you reduce your volume. That's the key. But in keeping that intensity, you then, within that micro, you reduce the intensity up till race week. It is the reduction in volume that recovers you. It is the maintaining of intensity that keeps you fresh. So as you reduce the volume, you're getting recovered, you're getting ready for the race. Maintaining some intensity keeps your form, keeps your fitness, and keeps you fresh for the race. Another great question from last week was how to determine that fine line between overtraining and training hard to maximize your potential. And it's one, understanding recovery. Recovery is a huge part of whether you overtrain or not. So are you getting enough recovery between hard workouts? Another component, understanding heart rate, developing your heart rate training zones. So when your easy days are easy, are you sure they're easy? Are you staying in the heart rate zone that you need to be? When you're doing hard, intense workouts, your intensity has to correspond to the duration of your interval. Does that match the purpose of the workout? So understanding the purpose of the day is crucial to help you to develop or decide how hard you're working that day, which also then corresponds to the duration of the workout or the duration of your intervals. I mentioned recovery. All my athletes, their 4th week is recovery week. Are you building frequent recovery weeks into your program? That goes a long way to help avoid overtraining. So a lot goes into that. There's a lot of complexities there. That's what I do. I'm a coaching geek, but those are some simple things that you can look at to really understand, to make sure you have a purpose of the day and your intensity is appropriate for the purpose of the day. That'll go a long way to help stave off the dreaded overtraining. And so much of this is in my book to help you develop heart rate training zones, speed training zones that correspond to your level of ability. So then when you're doing a workout, you're achieving the purpose of the day at your specific level of ability, which is huge. So you're always maximizing your ability based on the purpose without overachieving or overreaching, because now all your training zones are specific to you. And that's where field testing comes in, not relying on a formula or a calculation to develop your heart rate and speed training zones. What a day. One more question, but we tackled it at the track. Jackson Hole High School track. Let me get my shoes off here and we're gonna go to work on some cadence. Last question is, how do you perfect cadence running easy? Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, that's when it's most difficult. When we're running fast, it's easy to have high cadence, but how do we do it when we're running nice and easy? How do we get to that magic number of 85, 90 RPM strikes per minute while we're running easy to really be an efficient runner? And that I'm going to give you one drill to do at the track, more specifically at the football field. We'll go over that in a minute, to really start to get the feel of high cadence while running easy. Okay, so I'm gonna work barefoot so I can really feel the ground, have a natural forefoot strike. So I'm coming up to the hash marks. I'm gonna use these hash marks along the football field. And they're a yard apart. They're a yard apart. And so when we talk cadence, or we talk speed, there's two ways to get our speed. There's through our cadence and through our distance per stride. And what we're going to work on right now is only our cadence. So by using the hash marks of the football field, they go all the way down the football field. I am fixing my distance per stride. So we're working with just a yard in between. So I'm specifically fixing your distance per stride. So all you need to work on is your cadence. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run in between each hash mark. So I'm just running along, landing in between each hash mark. The key is to settle into a nice, easy, natural pace for you based on the fixed distance per stride, the hash marks. So we're using the hash marks as the coach, as your drill. And all you are is gonna, like I said, just settle into a nice pace that feels natural to you, that's gonna be nice and easy because the distance per stride is not very far, and just settle into a nice, easy, high cadence. We don't want it too choppy. That's why I say settle into a natural feeling cadence for you. And I tell my athletes, let the hash marks do its job. See it as a drill. So you're gonna just run back and forth along the hash marks from 100 yards to 100 yards, back and forth. And then the key is to begin to notice what this feels like. So again, working barefoot, you're gonna naturally strike the ground under you, and you're gonna start to have high cadence in a natural state. Just begin to notice what this feels like. Do maybe 10 back and forths along the football field, noticing what it feels like. And then take away the hash marks, maybe run the perimeter of the field with no hash marks, trying to mimic what it feels like to have the hash marks there. Visualize the hash marks in front of you, have the same distance, and just create the feeling that the hash marks naturally give you, and mimic that feeling. So what do you be aware of here? Like I said, let the hash marks do its job. If it feels too choppy, you're trying to run too fast. Remember, I'm fixing the distance. So again, if it feels really, really choppy, you're trying to run too fast. Let the hash marks do its job. Just set, like I said, I'm just gonna repetitive words here. Just settle in and let it feel as natural as possible. Settle into a speed that feels natural. Like I said, if it's too choppy, you're trying to run too fast. See if you can run nice and easy with this fixed distance per stride with high cadence. Let it happen through time. Let it be a drill. Again, what's the purpose of a drill? It makes real world easier. So see this as a drill. The key is to notice what it feels like through time, and then take that feeling to your normal running and trying to mimic that. So again, this is just a way for you to feel what good, efficient, high cadence running feels like, running nice and easy. That's the purpose. Thanks as always for watching. I'm headed home, 2 miles away, that away.